I have a tough time with like these Forbes lists and stuff because you can see who the richest people are, Elon and Jeff Bezos, whatever. Like, I'm very sure that there are people actually who have more money. They might have gotten it illegally, but there are people who have more money who just choose not to make that wealth evident. Are you tired of finance talk that's drier than stale croutons? Then grab a spoon and dive into the soup of Wall Street, the podcast that serves markets hot, business news spicy, and commentary extra chunky. Whether you're a seasoned investor, a curious newbie, or just here for the simmering drama of Wall Street, we've got a bowl with your name on it. Fresh episodes, bold flavors, zero boring bits. So pull up a chair, stir the pot, and get a taste of what's really cooking in the world of money, the soup of Wall Street, because finance shouldn't be bland. Slurp sound, music out. Oh, so terrible. It's awful. It's like the worst thing ever. You want to know who read that? Who wrote that? Chat GPT. I don't even know how they found that stuff. Like, how do they know who I am? Maybe they don't. I didn't tell it anything. All I said was, do a 30-second ad read for the Soup of Wall Street podcast. Make it fun. Make it fun. And that's what you get. No more edits. It's all gamey. What's happening is like, well, I got a couple things. First off, if you guys want to buy a 30-second ad read spot, you can just email me. That's Jack Bradley at soupofwallstreet.com. He'll get you hooked up. They're really expensive though. So just, keep that in mind. And then I'm going to put it in Chat GPT and I'm going to read one. So if anybody is listening, there you go. There's your chance. AI everything is like so obvious, like that's terrible. That's awful. People use it. It's like obvious. And like, we're getting used to the fact that it's obvious. So like now you can kind of tell when AI just writes you an email, you can tell when AI writes a paper. You can tell when AI just like makes something. It takes so much prompting to get it to look like it wasn't from chat anyway. It's also really bad because like it only knows what we tell it, right? Like it's not going to infer anything. It's not like coming up with something that's net new, It's just taking the slop that we give it on the internet, scraping it all together, and then like, spitting out whatever we said. Like how many times, I think it's so funny that like I'll ask it a question and then like it'll quote some random Reddit comment as like a primary source and be like, well, I saw this. Okay. There's just no way for it to verify what's like real. There's no way for this thing to say like, oh, this is a source of actual like truth or fact. I guess apparently truth and facts are like hot topics these days. I guess there's not a consensus on what's real anymore, which is a different issue. We all live on different planets, apparently. It's just a weird time. Have you ever tried reading your Twitter feed from a week ago? It's kind of interesting. I wish there was a better way to like freeze frame Twitter, like archive it somehow, or like your own personal archive. And then like go back a week and be like, oh, this is what was on Twitter a week ago. 50-year mortgages. Nobody cares anymore. A year ago, 2 years ago, it's like Trump was elected. The world's over. And then now we're talking about like Labubu's. Those two things don't go together. But this is the world we live in. The world is over and all we care about is 6-7. I don't even know what that means. No idea. But apparently it's a thing. It shows you just how fast we move as a society, Like, it's hard to see in real time. The whole like tipping thing's gone out of whack, right? That wasn't a thing that many years ago. Just the way that service has gone downhill. Now we're just fine with it. We're just fine, Service sucks. No one cares. It makes it way easier, by the way, to be really good as a business in a world in which service sucks. But that wasn't a thing 8 years ago. Like everything's out the gate since, basically Donald Trump became president and could start saying whatever he wanted in public. It's true, right? Like you can't hold anything against anyone anymore. And some people look at it like it's a competitive advantage. Some people look at it like it's the end of the world. Great news. You get to pick your own story. You get to choose your own perspective. It's awesome. Okay. So yeah, like society moves so fast and you can't tell. That's the problem. You can't tell when it's happening. You can't tell that we're 7 days later, we're half a fraction off from where we used to be. And then you look back a year and 2 years and 5 years and 8 years. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, let me just give you an example of where we used to be in this world, in this country. 250 years ago, you could go to debtor's prison. Debtor's prison was for people who owed too much money to someone or something. And our country, actually a lot of other people started this. We didn't start this. We're a new country, an experiment. But it was the norm that there would be a debtor's prison in society because, I don't know if these people were dangerous. I don't know if they were a threat to other people, but I guess they were dangerous in the sense that they owed somebody else money and they couldn't pay it back. That is dangerous. Arguably, there's bad. That's a bad thing, I would say. You get everybody else owing everybody else money. All of a sudden, you run yourself into a hole. Does that sound like today? I don't know, but it's where we were. So you could just go to debtor's prison. The idea of debtor's prison was that you were incapable of making enough money to pay somebody or something back. So let's put you in prison because that will give you sufficient motivation to go make that money and pay whatever back. Do you understand the logic? No, there is no logic. So we moved off of that, but it was so funny. What do we call that? Fast thinking. Everybody else is doing this. We might as well do it. There's no principle of thought there. There's no way for them to be economically productive to, make money to pay people back. So we moved off of that. And maybe we should go back to it. Maybe we should. Maybe we need to give some people some motivation. Maybe we should throw everybody in Congress into debtor's prison until they get our country out of debt. Would that be a good solution? Maybe. Maybe I'm not so far off. Sometimes you got to present things that are way out there so you can get to something that's rational, normal. What does that even mean? I'll tell you something I think is not rational, okay? So there's this story going around about Odell Beckham. Okay, wide receiver, played for the Giants, played for some other people. He was pretty good. Okay. Made a lot of money. NFL. Made over $100 million. I don't know if that's a lot of money. He doesn't think it is. So maybe it's not. Because he came out this week, it's been public, he was blowing through all this money and, supporting everybody that he knew, that he grew up with. Yada, yada, whatever. And he basically came out and said, it's real easy. That's his words. Real easy to plow through $100 million. Real easy. Have you guys ever added up how much money a normal person spends in their life? What's a reasonable expectation of literally spending, output over a lifetime or a career, let's say? So I can probably do this pretty quickly, right? Let's say that you start working at 22 and you have a 30-year or a 40-year career. And let's just take a median wage. Oh, here we go. Median weekly earnings as of the second quarter of 2025, $11.96. Can we call this 1,200? Are we good? Okay. So $1,200 a week as of this year. Says that translates into roughly 62,200 per year. Somebody else can check my math, their math, whatever. I'm just going to assume that's right. Okay. So 62,200 per year. Okay. So let's say we make $62,000 in a year. 62,000 for a single. Okay. 62,000. Hold on. I got to do some special inputs here. 62,000 income for a single taxpayer in the U.S. creates how much income tax? Okay, so if you're single in the United States, it says you make 62 grand, roughly 5,250 a year. Okay, so let's do math. So we got 62 grand minus 5,250. That gives me a net of 56,750. Okay. 56,750. You guys are going to see where I'm going with this in a minute. Follow along with your own pencil and paper if you like. 56,750 divided by 12, that's 47.29 a month. Can we get to a round number? Let's call it $4,800. $4,800 after tax in your bank every month. Okay, so I'm going to assume that we're just going to be like a rational person here. Rational. Let's just say like, okay, let's follow like Dave Ramsey's principles. Okay. So Dave Ramsey says to save. Dave Ramsey says to save how much income? This is like got to be publicly documented, right? I don't know what Dave Ramsey says. 15% of your gross income. Okay, so gross per month is going to be 5,100, call it 5,200 times 0.15, $780. Okay, we're going to be, so 4,800 hits my account after taxes. I got to save $780. I'm going to call it 800. So now I got $4,000 left. Okay. And then Dave Ramsey, what's my advice on rent? Spend over the 25% of your take home. So take home is 4,800. I can do that math. That's 1,200. Okay. So 1,200 on rent, 800 for savings. That's $2,000 out the door. 2,800 left. Let's say I spend every dollar. Okay. So I'm just an average, like this is the median income. This is facts, right? Okay. Whatever. $4,800 a month, pay my after taxes. Then I save some, then I pay rent. I'm going to be spending like $2,000. Actually, let's say that rent's like part of my spending, right? That's spending. So I'm going to spend $4,000 a month. That includes rent. Are we good with that? That's after taxes. After saving, I'm going to spend $4,000 a month. So $4,000 a month, that's $48,000 a year. Per year of spending for, let's say I work and I work for 40 years, and then I retire, I keep spending the same amount. Let's say I do that, I had like the same lifestyle for 50 years, basically, right? I only lived to, I start working at 22 and I die at 72. Okay, I'm just doing easy math here. 48,000 per year of spending. Add in a 3% cost of living adjustment and assume I keep spending at the same rate for 50 years. How much did I spend in my lifetime? I realize there's a lot of assumptions baked in here. I'm just trying to get a ballpark. Everybody relax. I can tell you that $50,000 times 50 is 2.5 million. And then you got to adjust it by 3% a year, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Total lifetime spending is $5 million. Now, granted, you guys, it's difficult to imagine, but 3% a year inflation adjustment, your cost of living does double like in 20 years or so. But it's $5 million of like normal baseline spending over 50 years. That's like literally based off literally median income today. I'm not trying to qualify whether that's a lot or a little. Like I I'm just saying that's like median. Okay. So let me go back to this quote. Odell Beckham ran out of, I don't know if he ran out of money, but it's just a thing that maybe he ran out of money. He's just talking about how easy it is to spend $100 million. It's real easy to plow through $100 million, yada, yada, yada. And then he said, oh, this is good. He said in this interview, then he said, people who ain't us don't understand. People who ain't us don't understand. I mean, I think there is some validity to that statement, I will say. We ain't you. And I'm sure it's difficult for most people to understand what it's like to have $100 million of earnings in a relatively short window of time. Actually, I didn't look this up before here, but I'm going to do this anyway. You can go check out his income because it's documented, right? Okay, so he had 10 years in the league. Let's see, career earnings. Yeah, 10 years. He started in 2014. Last year that he got paid was 2024. And over the course of his career, he had a total earnings through 2025 this year. Last year he got paid was last year. So, but total earnings of $101,896,476. That is how much money he's made. That does not include sponsorships or anything outside of that. That is literally just base, bonus, roster bonuses, options, etc. Everything's on here. 101 million. And he says it's real easy to spend that amount. That's a tough thing to say in a world in which the median person who's reasonably responsible is spending $5 million in their lifetime. I think that a lot of people who are like in the public eye don't really understand how ridiculous the things that they say like sound to most people, because you have to understand most people are statistically average. Wow. Most people are like most people, and they're not going to make $100 million in 10 years. That's insane. Sorry, that's not insane. That's a statistical outlier. Okay. Yeah, you ain't us. You can't understand. I guess what I would say, if I'm going to paraphrase this, is that it ain't cheap being rich. Okay. Right. The problem is being a public figure is that people know that you're rich. I have a tough time with like these Forbes lists and stuff because, you know, you can see who the richest people are, Elon and Jeff Bezos, whatever. And I like kind of don't think that those are the richest people in the world. I'm actually pretty sure that they're not. Like, I'm very sure that there are people actually who have more money. They might have gotten it illegally, but there are people who have more money who just choose not to make that wealth evident. Now, you kind of sort of can't like avoid it if you own a public company, you're an officer, like this stuff is public information. But half the problem about being a public figure is that people just know too much about you. And especially if you don't grow up in an environment where money is something you talk about, or money or having an immense amount of money is something that's normal. Not that it really is that normal for many people anyway. Like $100 million is a lot of money. But all of a sudden you go from like zero to like if you look at his contract, he played for 5 different teams, 10 years, $100 million, but 25 million of that was his rookie signing bonus. That's true. Okay. 25 million was his rookie contract signing bonus. And when you think about getting front loaded that much money, it's pretty nuts. So hold on. Let me clarify a few things. So rookie year, he actually got paid 6.3. His biggest signing bonus came in 2018. He got 20 million there from the Giants. But when you're getting so much of that money, like in such a relatively short window, I mean, $20 million signing bonus, $20 million check it's a lot of money. It can throw off a few things. And basically what he's been saying in the public is like, yo, like they don't pay us, like it don't last. Okay. It's not lasting. And he's like walking through how you make $12 million in a year and you spend 8 million and, so much for taxes, yada, yada. Like, I understand what he's saying. What I would say is that there are some basic fundamental principles you're missing. You can't spend $8 million a year forever unless you're making that. And I don't know if any of these guys go into the NFL or these athletes do other things and they expect to make the same amount of money they're making forever. I know some advisors who work with athletes. And these guys are like pretty hard ass, and they're basically like, yo, if you're not saving 2/3 of your money, I'm not taking you on. I'm not going to deal with it. Because you have to understand, like, how long does a player last in the NFL? How long does the average NFL career last? Welcome to my ChatGPT show. Chat says, average, okay, across all positions, league-wide average 3.3 years. Across all positions, league-wide average 3.3 years. So he had 3x the average career span. So it lasted longer than, the average guy would have. But yeah, you can't be expecting to make that much money indefinitely. I mean, even these guys who are playing for league minimum, what is league minimum? Okay, league minimum as a rookie, $840. Once you're in 2 years, league minimum, $1,030,000. 7 years plus, $1,255,000. So, okay, somewhere in that scale between $840 and, maybe $1,200,000. You must understand that $840 is a very high salary. There are very few things that you can go do as a rookie and go replace that salary. Actually, I would say that there are very few first-year positions with no other professional experience that will garner you that much of a guaranteed base salary, $840,000. And I can imagine that it's difficult as an athlete or entertainer or whatever to be making this amount of money, because the reality is these guys didn't get into this stuff to make money. I mean, maybe they did, but they didn't. Okay, let's just be honest. Nobody that I know who's played sports got into sports because they wanted to make money. They got into it because they love doing what they do. And there's kind of this disconnect between economic value and basically entertainment. It doesn't really exist. Like in business, it's kind of like natural. Like, oh, I sell this widget, I make so much revenue. Like at some level, maybe I make a profit. Like you can kind of connect the dots. I work harder, I sell more stuff, I make more money. Cool, great. As an athlete, it's a little bit like, there's a little bit of this disconnect. All of a sudden you're making all this money. Maybe your career's, so many years, and then you leave and it's like, oh, cool, I must be worth this much because that's what I was getting paid. Well, you were getting paid to do a unique thing in a unique window of time that you otherwise won't be able to do anywhere else. Like Deloitte's not going to hire you and pay you that same salary. You ain't got no experience. You know what I mean? So this makes me think about, a lot of things. But now that it's the holidays, this is funny because I feel like this is the time of the year. I don't know why this happens to me like all the time, but like around like Thanksgiving and Christmas, it happens like clockwork. A few people hit me up during the year and they're like, hey, I was sitting around the table with my family, my cousins and aunts and uncles and, people I don't ever see. And for whatever reason, we have nothing else to talk about, I guess. For whatever reason, they started giving me financial advice. You need to buy this house. You need to convert your IRA to a Roth. You should buy this stock, yada, yada. It's like always something ridiculous. I mean, in and of those themselves, those things, I guess, aren't necessarily ridiculous, but it cracks me up because for the most part, I mean, we don't talk about money in this country. People don't know anything about your financial situation. And people love to give advice. They love to give advice on money, especially when, I don't know, they don't know anything necessarily about your own situation. And it just kind of speaks to the fact that perspectives on money are so wildly different. They're so wildly different. I mean, you got one dude over here saying it's real easy to plow through. $100 million. Like most of you wouldn't even know what to spend $100 million on. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't spend it fast enough. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe some of you could. A lot of you wouldn't. A lot of people I know would just like be like, I don't know what to do. Just like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm pretty like content with my life, you know? You're pretty used to a certain standard of living. Why would I change it? Like I'm happy. Money's not everything. I get it, you know? I really do. But like people have wildly different perspectives and sometimes we like to assume that everybody else thinks like we do, which is fundamentally not true. I'm reminded that every time I get comments from my YouTube channel, because there's random people who watch these and then tell me what they think, which is just like funny to me. Because we don't think about things the same, I guess. Whatever. But when you sit down at your Christmas dinner and somebody tries to tell you to do something with your money, you just like smile and nod, yeah, mm-hmm. And then you can probably just ignore it. It might even sound like it makes sense. They might even like give you a good reason to do it. But short of like knowing everything about like your financial situation and the way you think about stuff, like it's basically useless. You know, you might as well just go on Chat GPT. Anyway, how do we get onto this? You should not be rich in public. I think that's a little scary. Maybe it's nice. I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be in public. That is a lot of money though. Like dude doesn't realize it. Like he could have spent like $2 million a year, which like objectively, what's the difference between spending 2 and spending like 8 a year? To the average plebeian, it's less than you think. There are certain things maybe, I'm sure, but you can live pretty good on $2 million a year if you're making 12, and you can save a lot, and you can probably keep living on a lot of money at like forever. Like I would say 2 million at a burn rate. That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid. I will tell you that half the people on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever who like talk about being business gurus and like talk about knowing everything about business and how much money they make, most of the time, I will tell you, in my experience, the more somebody talks about how much they know how to make money, the less money they actually have. And then sometimes I've actually seen this in real life, and it's comical's not the right word. That's mean. Okay. But I'm like not impressed by a lot, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay. We made it this far. If you have any other thoughts, if you want me to do a Chat GPT ad read for you, just let me know. You can send us an email. You can hit us up. You can come to my front door if you can find it. And we will see you next week. All right. Peace out.